what if this works? What if this is successful? What if people love it? What if they want more? Welcome back to Tailgate Chat. Thank you sincerely for joining me here for episode 3 as we're talking about what's holding you back. As the great Jerry Reed said, we've got a long way to go and a short time to get there, so let's get after it. So not too long ago, I was laying in bed, wrapping up my day. It's a little after midnight and I'm shutting everything down and getting ready to turn out the light and going through my emails one last time. And I see that I've gotten my weekly 321 email from James Clear. So if you're not familiar, James Clear is a best-selling author and he wrote the book Atomic Habits. He has a newsletter that he puts out weekly, comes out every Thursday, that is titled 321. And what it essentially is, it breaks down, he's got 3 thoughts that he'd like to share with you, 2 quotes from other individuals throughout history, and 1 question for you to ponder until next week. So I'm laying there and I'm reading this, and the second one asks, just in generalities here, it asks, what is that one idea that you've been holding back on? And he says, coming up with, I need to learn more before I get started, or I need to get my ducks in a row before I get this thing launched. They're really just things that are holding you back. They're things, obstacles that you've put in your way. And what are those obstacles you keep putting in your way to stop you from doing something? Well, I got to tell you, I had been putting obstacles in my way for a long time. And reading this really hit home for me. It was actually right before I decided to start doing this podcast. And it's kind of one of the little things that I'll talk about here in a second that spurred me forward. So I got this, right? And as I'm laying there and I'm reading this, it hits me and I'm like, I have to really write this down. And so here it is at, just after midnight on a Thursday night or a Friday morning. And I start writing about what is holding me back, and just in a little journal app on my phone, trying to figure out what is it, right? And so this was the straw that broke the camel's back. As I started writing in my journal, I started thinking about it, and I'm like, holy cow, what's the one thing? Well, the one idea is I want to write this book, right? The book about purpose. And I've taken some steps for that, but not really wholeheartedly at this point, right? So I start thinking, well, what else is there? Well, as part of the book, I wanted to, launch social media campaigns to help draw interest toward the book. Okay. And then I was like, you know what? I wanted to start a podcast, but how do I do that? Right? I wanted to start a podcast to help drive social media and help create a community of individuals that I could flesh out ideas with and talk about. So the podcast would lead to social media, which would help, funnel the book. And a part of that social media is a platform called Substack. If you're familiar with it, authors use it. The independent news people put news articles out, people write, a lot of authors use it. So I created one of those, and that's where I posted this story. And you may have read it. It's on there, and it's called What's Holding You Back? So as I am going through this process and I'm writing about it, I start thinking, okay, my wife has told me, you have to just move. Stop overthinking it. Just take action. Really easy to say. It's another thing to kind of get the ump to, right? To go do it. I got a guy that I know who used to play in the NFL, and now he's a financial advisor. And so I reached, and I seen that he had done a TED Talk. Well, that's one of the things I want to do as part of the speaking that I want to do eventually, is get into TED Talk. So I called him, and we're chatting, and he says, "So what are you doing now?" I said, "Well, I got this idea. I want to launch a podcast." And he goes, "So why haven't you?" And I go, "Well, I kind of need to." And he goes, "Just stop. Stop talking." I mean, and I loved it because it was very direct, right? And he says, "You just have to do it. It's not going to be great, and that's okay." He goes, "That's what mine was. It was junk, right? But I just got to get doing it." Put a pin in that. There are a couple other people in my life had said the same thing, but the one that right before I read the James Clear article that I heard was one of our pastors at church, Pastor Josh. He said it in a way that, you know, now it's like, okay, everything is really piling up. He said, um, I want to start a podcast, but I just have to do it. So he's on Instagram and he's just sitting out in his backyard and he's got his phone and he's just recording himself doing it. He's like, I've been trying to figure out how to do it. I know other people who do it, but I don't really know how to do it. And so I've been putting it off. I don't know how to do it. I put it off. He goes, and finally I just said, you know what? I have to do it. He goes, so here's my first attempt. I'm just launching this out on social media. And I'm like, the way that it resonated with me, it wasn't just somebody saying, go do it. It was somebody saying, this is what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. And that, for whatever reason, coupled with everything else, it all snowballed. And I sat and I wrote this story. I researched Substack. I went out and created an account and I launched this story on it. And so, that was kind of the big moment, right? What was the thing to ponder was, why am I not doing what I need to be doing? And I made some more notes here. If you'll bear with me for 1 second, I want to make sure that I don't miss any of this. Part of my reason for not starting is my habitual, I don't want to say need, because I don't need it, but it's my habitual habit to procrastinate. Is that something that you struggle with? I've always procrastinated. When I was in the Marine Corps and I was stationed over in Bangkok, Thailand at the American Embassy, I was a supply NCO. So my job was to make sure that we had all the supplies we needed for the house, whether it was cleaning supplies, sports supplies, all that stuff. And so every 6 months or so, we have a command inspection. So the company commander comes in, goes through all your records and your notes and make sure that you have all your stuff, all your ducks in a row. Well, our inspection was the next morning and it's like 10 o'clock at night. And I'm sitting in the office at the embassy, struggling to put everything together, doing stuff that where if I'd have done it as I went, it'd have been a breeze. But here I am, burning the midnight oil. And I'm not alone. One of my sergeants is there with me. And he's doing the exact same thing for his area of responsibility. And, we're cutting up and we're thinking about what we could be doing in Bangkok, Thailand on a Thursday night, And so he looks over at me and he goes, you know what, Sossman? If it wasn't for procrastination, I'd never get anything done. And we both started laughing because we thought it was, it's kind of funny. But, and to this day, I mean, I remember that story because it's true. I put things off to the very end. Now, I'll tell you, when I was going to college, I was a political science major, and my homework essentially was writing papers. 10-page paper mid-semester, 20-page, 30-page paper at the end of the semester. And I would do my research, and I would, time and time again, I started to write the papers, and I would write an outline, and I would sit there, and just nothing would happen. Nothing would flow. I couldn't get it. It wasn't working. Religiously, the night before the paper was due, I would sit down at the computer at about 10 o'clock at night. And I had been putting it off. And my wife would walk in and she'd go, what are you doing? And I'd be like, I'm getting ready to write a paper. She goes, when's it due? Tomorrow morning. Yeah. That never sat well with her because she is always, if this paper for her in her life, if this project is due on, January 15th, it's done generally by January 1st through the 5th. It's done. It's off my plate and she doesn't have to worry about it anymore. I can't do that. Now, I would sit down and I would churn out that 10 to 20 to 30 page paper the night before it was due, and I would get a good grade on it. I always got A's and B's on my papers. I'm not saying that as a pat on the back. And I'm not saying that because I perform under pressure. And so I would write that thing right before it was due. And it always, knock on wood, worked out well. But that's always been a thing, with me and my wife, is that she's like, can you please get started early? Babe, I would love to. And in some cases, I put it off, right? And in that very instance, this very case, was this podcast, was my writing, was the book, and launching a speaking career. Now, why is that, you say? For some, for me, let's do that. I don't want to speak for somebody else. For me, I've been holding on to this idea to write this book about purpose for over 7 years now. I had this idea when I was running the veterans nonprofit. And if you're not familiar with that story, if you go back to episodes 1 and 2, I talk about them a little bit more in episode 2, that I used to run a veterans nonprofit that taught veterans how to become entrepreneurs. And so way back then, when I would speak about purpose to individuals or to larger groups about how to find your sense of purpose and the importance of finding your purpose, I had this idea about writing a book on purpose. And it just sat there. And then it got shoved at the back. And then the nonprofit went away. And then other seasons of life picked up. And still, it was always there, but it was never like, I have to do this, because there was always excuses. That's a big one. And I'll stand right up here on my dais, and I will raise my hand and I will say, I have excuses. Are they good? Nope, because they are what they are. They're excuses. They're not anything other than that. So the excuses were creating obstacles, right? And what's the excuses look like? Well, I don't know how to, ... I don't know what ... right? I don't know is not an excuse, because how do you learn? You learn by doing, right? I can read all the books in the world, but if I don't do it, I don't have any experience doing it. And so that's going to lead to what we're going to talk about here in a minute, and that's growth. So I had this idea for 7 years plus now, and I never took action on it because I had these big excuses, and I was creating obstacles for myself. And why do we come up with these excuses? I come up with them for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm afraid of rejection. Plain and simple. I am afraid of rejection. That's why it took me so long to do this episode, why it took me so long to get in front of the camera and start this podcast. I'm afraid of failure. That's a big one. That's my fear. Failure. What's your fear? Are you fear of rejection? Are you fearful of rejection? Are you fearful of failure? Because I'll tell you, that's mine. I like to think I'm a perfectionist, but I'm not perfect. The rejection, it freaks me out. Putting myself out here, talking to you and anybody else who's listening, are you going to like it? I don't know. I've gotten enough rotations around the sun, though, that I really am starting to not worry about it. Could even say I kind of don't care. If you like it, that's awesome. If it's helpful, that's awesome. If you find value, that's what I'm striving for. If you don't like it, scroll to the next video. I'll never know. You want to sit in the comments and start saying that I did this wrong and that wrong? Perfect. I welcome it, because that's how I'm going to get better. That's what's going to make me take it to the next level. So please point out my flaws. Point them out. That's what's held me back in the past, because I didn't want to know it. Because I'm afraid of the rejection. But I know, like down in this area right here, that I need to accept the rejection. I need to accept the failure, because nobody succeeds without failure. You miss 1,000% of the shots you never take. Thank you, Wayne Gretzky. I need to start taking shots, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm lining up, I'm shooting. If I make it, spectacular. How did I do that? Let's replicate it. If I miss, don't do that again, right? So that's what I'm doing right here with these videos. And I'm doing with this podcast. And I'm hoping that I can reach you or somebody that you know and make a difference. And if I don't, you know what? I got some stuff off my chest. So I'm good for that. I'm good with that too. A little bit of it, so we're going to talk like 45% rejection, 45% failure. There's that little percent, maybe that 10% that says, what if this works? What if this is successful? What if people love it? What if they want more? Am I that guy? Can I pump these out? Do I have more ideas? Can I generate more ideas? Can I generate more talks about purpose? Well, that's a fear as well. So these are my things, right? What are yours? Sit back and kind of just take some time and reflect. That's what I had to do. Get some introspective time and say, what's stopping me from doing this thing that I want to do, or I know I need to do, or I should be doing, or, I'd really like to try to see if it would work, but I don't know how to get started, or I don't know which direction to go, or I don't know who to ask, and I'm afraid that I'm going to fail. You know what? Fail, jump up and keep going, right? When we're kids and we're walking and we fall down, what do? We don't just say, well, that's it, Mom, Dad, sorry, I tried. No, you get up and you keep going, right? Is your thing, are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid of rejection? Are you afraid of success? Those are all valid, but you have to learn how to embrace those and use them to your benefit. Because here's the thing. You have to get uncomfortable. I mean, it's not comfortable for me to sit here on this tailgate, staring at a camera, talking, and knowing there is somebody who will probably watch this one day. Maybe not. It's not easy. So what I'm saying is, for me my comfort zone is sitting back inside of my house on my computer or watching, some show on TV. That's comfortable. I'm going to the shooting range right now instead of sitting here doing this. That's comfortable. You have to get out of your comfort zone to grow. You have to do things you don't know how to do so that you can learn how to do them. And once you start growing, once you start expanding that, I mean, if I'm in this circle, but the thing I need to do is out here, once I do it, my circle just expanded, right? You get it. You have to do things that are uncomfortable, because then they become comfortable. Then they become easy. And then they become the commonplace thing. And now you can do something different. You can expand it. So with that little bit of hopefully motivation, maybe a little bit of a wake-up call, because I got this same talk from others. Maybe this is the one that spurs you into action. So I'm going to ask you, what's holding you back? What's keeping you from doing that thing? What idea are you sitting on right now that when this video is over, you're going to close YouTube, or you're going to close your phone because you're listening to it on a podcast, and you're going to start doing the thing? Maybe it's running a marathon. I can't just take off and run 26 miles. You know what? Newsflash, nobody can. It starts by running a mile. It starts by walking a mile. Walk around the block. Now that's a little more comfortable. Then it's 2 blocks. Then it's a jog. Then it's a run. Now it's a mile. 2, 10, 20. You get it. You know what I'm saying. You just have to get out there and start doing it. What obstacle is holding you back? Well, I don't know how to run. I'm not a good runner. I have shin splints. That's a valid one. I have shin splints. I get it. I have bad knees. Yeah, right here. Amen. But whatever that goal is, whatever that thing is that you're trying to do, what is it? Think about it. Say it out loud. I want to start a podcast. I want to write a book. Say it out loud. Write it down. The front of my journal, the very first page, has my goals. Public speaking, write a book, best-selling author, start a podcast. It's the first things right in my book. Write it down and start to will it into action. And I'll tell you, it's not going to be an easy journey. It's going to take time. You're going to have some ups and downs along the way. You're going to have to do some things that you're going to learn along the way, but you don't want to try to figure them out before you get started. Just get started. Just go. And then you figure it out along the way. And you know what? Here's another little tidbit of information for you. I bet you there's somebody in your sphere of influence, somebody you know, or a person who knows somebody you know that knows what you're trying to do, that has a little piece of that information, maybe that little bit of a puzzle, and they'll help you. Here's what we have to do. We have to ask. We have to... Pride, I talk about this in another article I'm writing, and it'll come out later, but pride, it is awesome to be proud of who you are. It is damnation if you are too prideful. You need to be able to, and this was my thing. I was that guy. And if you were to sit down and have a conversation with my wife, she will tell you. I wouldn't ask anybody for anything. Still kind of that way. But I know that I need to do it. Because these journeys are, not going to be easy, and they're generally long. Why are they long? So we don't know what we're doing. And that's okay. It's going to get easier. It's going to get better. Right? The Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a first step. If you go back and this is the 3rd episode of Tailgate Chat. There's more coming. If you go back and look at the first one, it was 8 minutes long. Now, my goal is to keep them short so that we can have some real meaningful time together, and not just me sitting here rambling on and on and on for 45 minutes to an hour. You got better stuff to do. I got better stuff to do. I can keep this to 20 to 30, 35 minutes and be impactful and be meaningful for me and for you. That was it. And that was my first step. I filmed for 45 minutes to get 8 minutes worth of usable content. And that was a stretch. You go back and watch it, you'll see. It's a stretch. But I know it, and I knew it, and I did it, and I put it out there. Wasn't happy with what I put out there, but I put it out there. Slowly moving forward, taking a step. Second one was 20 minutes long. This one is going to be right around that same time frame, I'd imagine. One of these days, I'll get somebody right over here with me. But here's what I'd really like to see. You could listen to me and somebody else talk. You can listen to me bloviate forever. What I'd really like to see is in the comment section or in my email inbox, a note from you. Checked it out. Really liked this. You could do this better. I think this would be helpful. That's what I'd like to see. Because I want to start to create a community. I want to start to create a connection with each one of you that are listening to this podcast, whether it be, over a podcast platform or through like YouTube or a video or however it's being shared, however you pick this up. I'd ask that you would leave a comment or shoot me an email. When you do that, let's start. I'll reply. Hand to God, I'll reply. Let's have a conversation. Let's create a community. The Bible says that we as humans, we're meant to be in a community, in a tribe. And so let's start to create that so we can be helpful to one another. I'm feeding off of you. I hope you're feeding a little bit off me, and I hope that you find this information about what I'm going through, what I've been through useful, and you can pick little pieces out for yourself. And if not, that's okay. Maybe you're listening to this because there's somebody you know who needs it. So I ask you this, humbly ask you this favor. Wherever you're listening to it, click the like button, click the heart, whatever it is, the thumbs up, and give us a follow, because we'll be putting out more of this content, and I'd really like to share it with you. And then share it, whether it's just generally or whether it's with a specific individual that you're listening to this and you're like, I know that such and such at work is going through a da da da. I know that my family member needs blah blah blah. Share it with them. Let them decide. So I just humbly ask that you take a few minutes and communicate with us, chat with me, share this with others. And I'm gonna just kind of, as we wrap things up here, I want to say a little prayer, right? I know for me, this is a very spiritual journey, because I have learned that my purpose is created in God. God created my purpose. He put me here on purpose, and he put me here for a specific reason. And this season of my life, I believe it was for this. Maybe not. But I'm working toward this. And so I will just ask everybody, bear with me for a second. Father, I lift the person listening to this right now who feels the fear of the unknown and moving forward. Grant them the clarity where there is confusion, courage where there is fear, and peace where there is doubt that has taken root. Help them take the difficult first step forward and trust that growth happens in motion. Amen. I hope that this podcast was beneficial to you, and I hope that you share it. And I hope to see you again right here on the Tailgate, where we're going to fuel your passion and drive your purpose. Let's get after it.